Now that the NFL trade deadline has come and gone, let's take a look at some of the trades that took place last season. Did the Denver Broncos make the right decision by trading Bradley to the Dolphins for Chase Edmonds? The only way to find out is by looking at the on-field impact of these trades. In this video, we'll discuss the deals made during the season and grade them according to their impact. First off, when the Falcons traded safety Marlowe to the Bills. This is a decent trade for both Bills and Falcons. Jordan Poyer hurt his elbow when the Bills beat the Green Bay Packers, and Micah Hyde is already out for the season, so Buffalo needs more safety options. Marlowe played for the Bills from 2018 to 2020, and he got 4 starts in his last year there, so he should be familiar with Sean McDermott's defense. The athlete also played all of the Falcons' defensive snaps when they beat the Carolina Panthers in Week 8 because Jalen Hawkins was out with a concussion. But Marlowe's mostly been on Atlanta's special teams this season, so getting a pick in the 7th round for him seems fair. Up next, the Chiefs traded cornerback Fenton to the Falcons. Atlanta's in first place in the bad NFC South, which is a surprise, and needs some corner depth. Casey Hayward's on injured reserve because he hurt his shoulder, and AJ Terrell missed Atlanta's win over the Carolina Panthers because he hurt his hamstring, and that's why it makes sense to bring Fenton in for almost nothing. But before he hurts his hamstring, Fenton played more than 90% of the defensive snaps from weeks 2 through 5. But Fenton's a cornerback with 16 starts under his belt, so it seems fine to bring him in to strengthen the position while Atlanta's still in the running. It looks like Kansas City thought the other rookies could get the job done as well, or even better in the future. This season though, Fenton made $2.5 million in salary, so the Chiefs will save about half of that by getting rid of him now, followed by the Colts trade of running back Hines to the Bills for running back Moss. The Bills finally got their receiver they'd been missing for a long time. Hines, who's 25, is a receiver, but he isn't the best at it. But he has good hands, as shown by his 76 catch score over the same amount of time. And the Bills want a running back who won't hurt their passing game, and Hines fits the bill. About half of Hines' $3.6 million salary and roster bonuses for 2022 will come from the Bills, and he's set to make $4.8 million in salary and roster bonuses for 2023. Of that amount, $1.7 million is a sure thing, and like many other deals this week, Hines is more valuable to the Bills than the Colts. And Moss lost his starting job in Buffalo, but there's no real reason not to take him and see how he does as a backup to Jonathan Taylor. Moving on to the Commanders, traded cornerback Jackson to the Steelers. Before the deadline, everyone knew that if the Commanders couldn't find a trade partner, they'd have to let Jackson go. Still, that doesn't mean it's always a bad idea to trade for him. Even if the Commanders let him go and the Steelers wanted him, it wasn't given that they'd get him. And we're not sure if it makes sense for the Steelers, who are 2-6, to trade for a player who will have to be cut at the end of the season. Jackson's non-guaranteed $12.75 million salary plus roster and workout bonuses are due in 2023. So this means that unless the Steelers work out a new deal with him, they'll almost certainly be cut after this season. Not all of Jackson's coverage numbers were bad. The trade saves money toward the limit and gives the Commander his small draft compensation. And the fact that he signed a 3-year deal as a free agent in 2021 that guaranteed him $26 million would count against Washington. Next, the Jets traded defensive end Jacob Martin to the Broncos. Martin's an excellent player who won 18% of pass rushes at the edge this season and 20% of them in 2020, and it's easy to see why the Jets wanted to trade him. At first glance, the Jets guaranteeing $6 million on Martin's 3-year deal signed this offseason seems like a bit of a better pill to swallow from a cap point of view, but that money's already gone, and $1 million was guaranteed salary for 2023 that the Broncos now have to pay, and Denver should be planning for the years after 2023, but Martin's an excellent addition to a team that lost Bradley Chubb and could use a little more depth on the outside pass rush. Still, Denver gave up some draft picks to pay Martin a $5 million salary and a roster bonus next season, or take a $1 million cap hit if they decide to cut him. Not to mention, Falcons traded wide receiver Calvin Ridley to the Jaguars. Ridley was among the best NFL players last season in 2020. He averaged 2.5 yards per route, which was good enough for 9th place among players who had run at least 250 routes. In 2021, when he played, he didn't do as well, and later, Ridley was suspended for at least the 2022 season for betting on games, and now he must apply to get back on the field, which can't happen until February 2023. These things make this deal hard to understand, which is why the price is so low. And from the Falcons' point of view, it's harder to figure out how good this trade is. Ridley's a high-end receiver with a 5th-year option left, so they might want to keep him. Before the news of his suspension came out, Ridley had left the Falcons to work on his mental health, and other teams had asked if he was available. Let's learn more about the 49ers trade of running back Jeff Wilson Jr. to the Dolphins. Going from Chase Edmonds to Wilson in one day is a pretty significant upgrade at running back. Edmonds had the worst rush yards over expectation of any NFL player this season, while Wilson had a plus 119 with the 49ers. Raheem Mostert took over as the running back, but Mostert's also had a few rushing yards than expected this season, and since McDaniel used to work with Kyle Shanahan, it seems likely that Wilson will be able to run with the Miami offense right away. The Dolphins are the 26th in EPA per design carry, so they could use some help on the ground. Wilson will be a free agent at the end of the season, and his current contract is only worth $1 million. Mitchell, who sprained his MCL in September and was expected to be out for 2 months, should be back soon. It makes sense in Wilson's contract year to turn him into a draft pick. Coming up, when the Broncos traded offensive linebacker Chubb to the Dolphins. If you spend a first-round pick on any player who isn't the quarterback, you'll have to pay a lot. The Dolphins got that in Chubb. For most of his career, Chubb's stats didn't show that he was as good as everyone said. Recently, though, in 8 games, Chubb had 5.5 sacks. His run-stop win rate at the edge is also a career high, putting him 12th in that category. The Broncos at least know who they are, and they aren't contenders. They'll get less out of having Chubb for the second half of 2022 because of how he plays and how much it costs to pay him. The Dolphins will get more out of it, and because of this difference, the deal makes sense for both sides. The 49ers pick, which the Broncos are getting back, is likely to be a late first-round pick. Still, since the Broncos aren't in the running right now, this is a good move. Next, the Steelers trade wide receiver Claypool to the Bears. This is a strange decision because the Bears would have been better off trading Roquan Smith and then keeping him. Claypool's another cheap year left on his rookie contract after this, so it's not the same, but part of his value was that he could do in the second half of 22, and which doesn't matter to a rebuilding Chicago team, or it shouldn't be. For Claypool, getting a pick early in the second round in a year when the Steelers aren't in contention is too good of a deal to pass up. Since he still had a cheap year on his contract, the Steelers didn't have to trade him. Finally, the Lions traded tight end Hockenson to the Vikings. It looks like the Vikings think they have a chance. At 6-1, there's still some doubts about how strong they are, but it might not matter. The Lions know they aren't contenders, and even though Hockenson is a young player who could help them in the future, they were about to start paying him. It wasn't a deal they had to make, but getting draft picks is never bad for a team that needs to rebuild. And on that note, that's a wrap for this video. Which of these deals was the best decision and benefited both teams? Did we miss out on any trade? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. I'll see you in the next one.